Hey there. This is Kyle Russell here of crystalconcentrics.com. And I am very, very excited to be joining you for this very special webinar all about one of my favorite stones, rhodochrosite. Now, rhodochrosite is a stone that comes from Argentina mostly. We'll learn a little bit more about some other varieties over the course of the webinar. And I know it takes a minute or two for you to tap in because of the technical delays in the technology, which is actually going to be shifting in a couple of months. Actually, by next month, I hope to be using the new technology because Google Hangouts is a service that is going away. One of the great things about what we do, this is part of the Why It's Awesome series, is that we broadcast live for free to make sure that it works and to give everybody an opportunity to have a good look at what it is that we have to offer. And then later, some of these videos stay free and other ones you have to pay to view. But it's really important whenever you get a notice about one of these upcoming webinars to be sure to sign up. And there's an option to subscribe to future webinars, which is super useful because then you don't have to re-sign up. It automatically notifies you whenever a new webinar is happening. Now, that might not transfer automatically. We'll have to look into some of the technicalities with the new technology. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about this. And I'm actually, before I start, I want to make sure the chat function works. You'll notice there's a box over on the side of the screen, and you could say something. I'm going to say hi, and maybe introduce yourselves. Let us know where you're from. Wait a minute, did my hi go in there? I'm going to say hello there, Kyle, here in Boston. Okay. And that is not showing. That is so weird. The chat box is enabled. So, oh, there we go. Now we're starting to see it. So that's me again, and hello, Carol from Maine. So people can chime in as we go along. Also, feel free to ask questions as we go along, because we've got some great things to show you live and in person like this, but we also have a fantastic slideshow in store. More hellos. All right, Rebecca. Great. Montana. Hi there. Maria. Thank you for tuning in. Sharon, this is awesome. Now that I know that there's somebody here and I'm not talking to the void, I want to explain to you why rhodochrosite is special. And I had a realization. Hi, Tammy. All right, Rebecca likes the slideshows. I know. I had so much fun making this. I'm going to have a lot of fun telling you all about it. But I had this idea today. You know how with trees you have evergreen trees? They're just trees that don't change or that color in the wintertime. So they're evergreen. Now, rhodochrosite is special because, especially when you get the very good quality rhodochrosite, it is ever red. So red, and I go through this constantly. I'm struggling actually. Do I assign this to the root chakra, or do I assign it to the heart chakra, where we often have the color pink present? And I've actually sided a little bit more with the root chakra because I think of rhodochrosite as what I call the regeneration stone. It represents healthy flesh tissue, all right? So on a very simplistic level, some people would say, oh, well, that's all about fertility. But fertility is a way for us to understand something that actually goes on all the time in all our bodies. And that is our cells die and are replaced. There's regeneration that happens constantly, even if you're older. Yeah, cool. All right, good. I love all these comments, and this has been the best thing. Since I asked people to introduce themselves, I found people lose their shyness. They say hello, and then later they can feel free to ask questions. So back to what I was saying, the regeneration stone is all about cellular vitality. And cellular vitality, I think, even though the heart is pumping out red blood all the time, and later on you're going to see a slide that shows a piece of rhodochrosite that looks exactly like an actual heart, I still think of it as emanating. Even if it can be associated with the heart, I believe that certain stones can be connected with multiple chakras at the same time. So even if it's rooted as the root, because the root is really like on a tree, it's where the roots come out of into the earth and where the trunk comes out into the air, and then the branches go all up into the sky. So the root is like the foundation, it's the anchor, it's the source. So if you're looking to improve your health in an intrinsic and personal, deep, physical way, there is no substitute really for rhodochrosite, although I'm probably not going to show you pictures of it here, but it is useful and instructive to let you know that there are some substitutes for rhodochrosite, actually one really specifically. The others I think of more as sort of second and third heart chakra stones, but specifically rhodonite is a good substitute for rhodochrosite because you can get it for a fraction of the price, and it's not as brilliant in color. It often has a lot of black in it, but the black in rhodochrosite is usually inert, whereas the black in rhodonite kind of complements the pink, and so they actually work together as a nice and interesting color and energy combination. But that's something that you can get into if, oh, I just remembered, the other stone that can double for rhodochrosite, but is also a little bit lighter and a little bit different energetically, is cobaltocalcite. So if I do a webinar on pink stones that excludes rhodochrosite, you can be sure I'm going to bring up rhodonite and cobaltocalcite. And those are great stones to have. They're beautiful. They're nice to get into your collection. But I find that this is the foundation of the regenerative stones, and as a sort of one of the key healing stones. I do webinars all about healing crystals, and that's another topic. But this is certainly one of them. But what I'd like to do is get down to business and talk to you. Actually, before I go to the slideshow, I'm going to just show you a couple of physical pieces. Rhodochrosite tends to grow in circles like this, like a stalactite. So it either comes up or comes down. However it grows in the ground, once they get it out and you can saw it into a section, you often find this type of a shape, these sort of concentric circles, which are a lot like a tree trunk or wood. And wood is another type of material that, even when it's petrified, has a lot to do with our physical energy and vitality. So it's interesting. This is a little bit more biological looking than some stones. I'm going to show you another piece. This is probably the biggest piece. I'll show you the lights and the digital video catches the white and just makes it totally blank out. So you're really not getting great color, and that's where the slideshow is going to come into play. But what I will show you, oh gosh, this is even whiter and you can't see it for crap. There, a little bit better. So this here, you see how it's kind of bumpy? This is called botryoidal termination. So when you get a bubbly termination like happens here, you call it botryoidal, and it's something that happens in hematite and malachite. Those are other examples of stones that have that. Now I'm going to ask you to let me know if you can see my screen here. I'm going to go share, and we're going to go into here, and we're going to click on the very first item, and let me know if you can see that. Is that something that, are you seeing one image or multiple images? Let me know by typing in a message for me. Oh yes, oh yes, beautiful, excellent. So, okay, this is working. So what you're looking at here is a fantastic rhodochrosite. Like I said before, the color that you're looking for is this very rich red, and if you're lucky, it will be gemmy. Yes, you see one image. That's what you're supposed to see. One image at a time, and I'm going to go through the slideshow and show you all of them. There's going to be over 50 photos I'm going to show you. So what you see a little bit, and I don't know, can anybody see my mouse moving around? This is now an inquiry about whether you see the mouse. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm moving the mouse around in a circle. Let me know if you are seeing that. I'm looking at the comments. Yes, great, the mouse is in. All right, so up here you see some real gemminess. And what that means, when I say gemmy, that means the light is penetrating the surface of the stone and you can see some of the internal structure. It's almost like looking at water that has different layers or dimensions, like when you pour coffee into a glass of water, you can see it swirling around. So a stone that is gemmy will let you see into it. Okay. Oh, Tammy's not seeing the image. I'm sorry, Tammy. Everybody else is. So it might be something on your side, technically. I'm going to flip over to the next slide here, because what I did with my last webinar, the one about sugilite, was that I shared some things that I found on eBay. Here's a question. Sharon is saying, is it like the look of green calcite? To the extent that light penetrates green calcite, or green fluorite even better, it is similar to that. So this piece that we're looking at here, I found on eBay. I decided I would do some research, see what's out there, not just show you what I have, but also show you what is out there. So this is a rhodochrosite. It's a flat polished gel Argentina. So when they say gel, they're talking about that translucence. They're also talking about a lot of uniformity of color and a lot of red. So this piece is 127 grams. It's under 3 inches long across, and it's $5 a gram. So that's how it gets to be over $500. So it may seem, you know, too specific to be talking about the gram price, but I wanted to let you know that that's how I, as someone who's kind of an expert in this stuff, analyze a listing. I want to know how much it weighs and what the price is per gram so that I can place it into the level of affordability or comparability with other stones. So you can see that a piece like this that's pretty small can cost a bunch and be $5 a gram. Next piece I'm going to show you is a little bit of a different crystallization, okay? Notice, you see how it's kind of bubbly? It's not quite botryoidal here, unless it is on a real micro level. But what you see is the crystal is actually arcing over the top here. It's terminating in this interesting way at the top, and it's bubbling in a more subtle way than the botryoidal method. And this is from China, okay? You do not find this type of formation anywhere else. I noted here in my little graphic overwriting, it's a curving termination. It's less than 2 inches in size, and it's just over $12 a gram. So you see, we can go from $5 to $12 a gram just like that, based on the seller's perception or the market's perception of value. So a piece like this that is $12 a gram comes to almost $400 for a piece that's, you know, as big as half your finger. I liked finding this because guess what? I found one of these pieces a few years ago and I purchased it. You can see it's very similar. It has that same sort of bubbly surface. And in my photo, you can see it a little bit better. It's a gorgeous piece, and I wanted to have it set by a jeweler. But my jeweler friend said that she was afraid to set it because the heat of the metal might break it, and she couldn't be responsible or if it broke while it was being set. So I held off for another few years, and I got lucky. Have a look here at what was being done. You see, this is my main wire wrapper's handiwork. He was able to take it and wrap it in a way that protected the edges in sterling silver and turned it into a fantastic medallion piece, which is really quite exceptional. And I'm a little undecided as to whether I want to keep this piece for myself or if I'm going to put it on sale. Yes, Rebecca, he's an awesome guy. I really love your feedback. The more, the merrier. So you see what happens is a piece like this gets purchased, gets set, and suddenly you can use it in a way that's more practical than if you were just to try to hold a piece like that in your hand. You'd be afraid to break it. It's too much of a sliver, and it doesn't have the strength of a piece like this to really be held in your hand conveniently. So moving on, I wanted to show you how the stalactites often don't form separately. They can form all sort of simultaneously in big drippy groups. So this piece here, it's a genuine museum 11.5-inch rhodochrosite stalactite polished slab. Okay, it says it comes from the Capilitas mine in California, which is really astounding, and I have never heard of this type of a piece not coming out of Argentina, so I'm pretty impressed. But I looked at it, and I looked at the dimensions in terms of how much it weighed and how thick it was, and I found that it was about as thin as cardboard. It's like a 1/2 inch, not even a 1/2 inch thick. So it's a very slim piece, but it's incredibly gorgeous, displays nicely, and costs over 13 grand. So in this situation, we've got 737 grams, which is a little bit under 2 pounds, and it cost $18.31. So we went from $5 to $12 to $18. There's a lot of movement in terms of what this type of material can fetch. Now, what we see here is a natural pink red rhodochrosite from Argentina. It's a polished slice. So what they've done is they've taken the stalactite, which often gets these fantastic formations. You get a little bit of thicker here. You get a little bit more of gel material there, so that if you put a light on behind it, you can see right through the stone. And in this situation, it was $220, and they put it on sale for $183, 20% off. So this is what I call the stalactite cross-section. But I want to teach you a little something. A lot of people don't know what a carat is. A carat is a form of measurement such that 5 carats equals 1 gram. So down here, we do the math. We take 102 carats, we divide it by 5, and we come up with just 20 grams. So something that has all those carats, you think, oh my gosh, that must be huge. And then you realize that it's actually 5 times smaller than that in terms of grams. It's only 20 grams, but we come in just under $9 a gram here. So again, we were at $5, we went to 12, we went to 17, now we're back down to 9. Okay, so yeah, Tammy's noticing that's a gorgeous setting for a necklace. Well, there's more to show you. Here's a piece that is actually one of mine. I may have sold it, I'm not quite sure, but I have others like it. When you hold it up to the light, you can see the light coming right through the gelish section, and you can see this gorgeous core to the stalactite, which is very beautiful, and then gets covered, surrounded by this pinkier rather than reddish layer. So again, it's a little bit like a tree. It's an ever red, and it can be cut into sections to make phenomenal pieces of jewelry, as you can see in this case. So these little tiny pieces, which really are all smaller than your fingernail, depending on which fingernail you're talking about. This is a 79.5 carat total. I've done the math here. It comes down to 15 grams altogether. So each one of these pieces could be 5 or fewer grams. And you're paying $11.50 per gram on this grouping right here. So they call them buttons, and they are very gorgeous. You can imagine these two being a nice earring, this being part of a pendant. Maybe you could make this part of the pendant. The possibilities are limitless, and it so happens, oh, here's another example, okay? You see how good that was? This is a piece that I got somewhere off of online. I'm not sure who to credit for the photograph or the actual stone, but what they did was they took this astounding cross section and they rounded it and they turned it into a heart. It's probably very, very small. Yes, thank you, Rebecca. You're seeing that the translucency is very obvious. No way in the world I could show you that without slides. So, oh, Paula's reporting that her buttons have turned grayish inside, which is interesting. I haven't known in my entire time with crystals, and that's been 30 years, I have not seen color changes in stones, but I hear them reported all the time. So it is possible that it loses some of its luster. Here's a piece. This is one that I did actually buy, and you can see this bottom piece was turned into a necklace, and this and its buddy that you can't see up here were turned into earrings. So that made for a very fantastic set. But imagine that I had to spend a few $100 just to get this little trio, because as we can see from over here, you can easily spend $200 to get a few of these little tiny pieces. Now here is a different type of rhodochrosite crystal, and I call it a cubic crystal, because you'll notice it looks kind of boxy. You've got hard lines, you've got dimension. It almost looks like optical calcite, but it is red, and this piece is very small. It's the size of a quarter, and it's 26 grams, which means it's probably pretty heavy. Rhodochrosite can be pretty dense, and look at that price, $1,500. And that is from Colorado. So if the other slide was correct, you can find rhodochrosite rarely in California, but also in Colorado. And I'm noting here that similar types of material come out of China, and this one is a whopping $56 per gram. So even though it's 26 grams at $10 would be $260, but because we're 5 times that, we're jumping up to $1,500. So you can see the values of rhodochrosite can be through the roof. Here's a nice $3,000 one from China. It's hard to tell exactly how big it is. I imagine that this piece is probably a large palm piece. These types of stands come in a few different sizes, and I took a picture of this a few years ago. But you can see it has that same kind of cubic quality that the Colorado piece has, but this one comes from China. The next type of formation I wanted to show you of rhodochrosite is a terminated crystal. So that's quite unusual. We were used to seeing everything very organic and botryoidal, and with the linear boxy stuff, we start to see the possibility that it could actually terminate like a lot of other crystals that we know. In this case, this lovely little twin termination also comes from South Africa in this case. So South Africa and Peru, I believe, or I think it's Peru or Argentina, but somewhere in South America, they're so damn rare that I have never actually held one of these. I only ever have seen them in photographs. And I tend to like larger stones because I want to be able to put them in my hand and feel the energy more. In this case, there was no gram weight listed. It was 1/2 inch by 3/4 of an inch. Another example of this size category called thumbnail. And then when I emailed them, they told me it was 4.6 grams, which meant we went to $76 a gram. So you can see that this type of termination is so rare that it can fetch, 100 times what a sort of more run-of-the-mill type of rhodochrosite would get. But it's so small, you see someone's fingertips here. It's basically like the tip of your finger, which is cool, but it was originally $950 and they took it 20% off. They're offering it for $760, which is still a ton of money. Now I want to get into talking to you about some of the cuts that happen with rhodochrosite. And one of the popular, but strangely one of the most rare forms of rhodochrosite you can find is the sphere. And this is an example of a rhodochrosite sphere. Everything I've shown you has been really top quality. In this situation, we're dropping down again to under $5 a gram. It's only 1.5 inches in diameter, so it's small. You can also tell by the way it's perched on this person's fingers that it doesn't take up a lot of space, but it's $5 a gram, and the quality is not the greatest. All of this other stuff material, this stuff that is not red and gemmy and translucent and really rhodochrosite-y, I call it matrix. It's basically the base material in which the stone forms, and you can't get rid of it in a lot of pieces. And if you are able to get rid of it, you consider yourself lucky. For example, you can see the difference between this sphere and that sphere. Much, much, much gemmier. It's gorgeous. You got just this little bit of matrixy stuff in the middle, which is not super awesome, but whatever. It's a great piece. This one is 2.65 inches in diameter, which means it's a lot bigger than the 1.5. It's only 1 inch bigger, but it's funny because this guy, if it was 80 grams, this one is claiming to be 533 grams. So I'm not so sure how, whether they even have their math right, because if their math is right, then you're paying only $3 a gram, which is a very good price for rhodochrosite, but you're still forking over $1,500 just to get a ball. So balls are very, very prized in the rhodochrosite world. They're hard to come by. They often, when you do find them, have some lower quality material in them. And this very same one that we're spending $1,500 for has another side. And you have to be very careful when you're buying, especially online, and when you are concerned about quality, that you get a look at the second and third photographs. In this case, this is the third photograph, and it's a gorgeous pattern that you see. Um, the gray in Paula's example was that matrix. Yes, basically the gray, anything that's not that nice pink is, we just call it matrix. Often it will have a specific name, it'll be a specific stone, but for those of us who are not super geologists, we don't really get excited about what else might be in there. We're mostly interested in this sort of energy bearing aspect of the stone, which comes through the pink and red and you know, the rich colored material. So you see what the other side looks like. It's nice, but it's not perfect, and it's 1,500 bucks. So that's to tell you that even if you fork down a huge amount of money to get a really special piece, it may not be perfect, and you just have to live with that. I try very hard. This is an example of a piece that I have for sale now that really is pretty close to perfect. You've got this great gemmy area in here. It extends all the way over there. It almost looks like a geode, like an open mouth here, but in fact it is just round everywhere. And this is the whiter sort of matrixy material, lighter pink, and it also gets dark over there. And this is the other side of my piece, where you can see some all the way black matrix material in it. And that's just something you have to live with. If you want to get one of these stones, you can pay crazy, crazy money and find something that doesn't have any of this type of matrix, but you would be very, very lucky. So most of us end up having to settle for something that is not 100% perfect just because it's 80% perfect, and it's better than that, and it's way better than that. All right, so moving right along, that's what that same, actually, sorry, my mistake. This piece over here is a little bit bigger than this piece. This is an earlier sphere that I purchased. Oh, thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, it does look like one of mine. And this one right here, this pendant, is definitely one of mine. It was a little bit smaller, and because it was smaller, I had it set in sterling. It looks like it could almost be gold, but you can tell from my ring here that this is the gold part and that's the silver part, and that's the awesome rhodochrosite ball sphere pendant. So I definitely look for the very, very top quality when I buy my rhodochrosite, as should you, but you know that I've seen thousands of pieces, so I have a pretty good sense of what's special. This is a different type of cut for rhodochrosite, and it's very unique, it's unusual, and I have not seen it before or since. It is an actual sphere holder. So it comes up off of the floor or surface, whatever you're resting it on, and it has this little crater here, and you can rest a sphere on it. What I like to do is put a clear quartz on top of this rhodochrosite, and the idea is that this is a sort of booster or burner underneath the clear quartz, and it is infusing its energetic signature into the clear quartz, which as a sphere is omnidirectional and sends that energy out into all directions. So that is a very cool occurrence of the use of rhodochrosite. This here is a very fashionable and fancy perfumer. The base is glass, but the top is a perfect gemmy rhodochrosite. So I was very pleased, and as you can imagine, since I am a fan of rhodochrosite, it was very hard for me to not purchase this piece. And although it's great, I'm not invested in keeping it for myself. I'm happy to pass it along to somebody else. The same is true for these incredible offering bowls. They're relatively small, but the workmanship on them is astounding. You have a lip of rhodochrosite. You have the main bowl dish of malachite, and then you have a base of rhodochrosite sitting on a foundation also of malachite. So what you end up with is this astounding combination of stone colors and energies, which is done here in a slightly different way. You're using black onyx and then this phenomenal rhodochrosite as the bowl. And in this case, you have a nice calcite. This is sort of a creamy calcite here that looks like an alabaster or an onyx, a white onyx. And looking at it, I can see why, arguments could be made that it's any one of those stones. But whatever it is, it's gorgeous, and it really works as a very special offering dish. Over here, you see a very coveted carving incarnation for rhodochrosite, and that is the rhodochrosite skull. Small pieces like this can cost over $100. They're very small, but very gorgeous. Not all of them are as nice as the others, but when I get them, I tend to buy the very prettiest ones I can find. I just sold one of these recently, and I would love to get a hold of some more. But that's giving you a little bit of a sense of the carving possibilities. Here's a simple heart, which also comes in at a decent amount of money, even though it's small. For some reason, they haven't carved that many hearts or that many skulls or even spheres out of rhodochrosite. It ends up showing up in a number of different forms, including this very fun little whale. So here's a whale on top of the sea with a little eye inserted there. This sea is a selenite base, which is quite cute. There's an actual fish with some waves being used as the foundation of the fish so that the fish can stand up. And you can see it's an astounding quality with almost jagged little layers in here. There's another fish. Again, they've inserted an eye, but it does stand, and it does make for a really spectacular display piece as a rhodochrosite exotic fish. This here is a horse. Again, they go with the yellow eyes, and there's a fair amount of matrix inside of the body of this horse. But because of the carving and the fact that horses often have a variety of colors in their fur, it kind of works for a horse, maybe more than for other animals, especially since you have this incredible gemmy head going on here. So that's an astounding piece. This one, we're starting to go, the detail of carving is a little bit more figurative, not quite as literal, but it is still three-dimensional. But you see, it's a different quality. It's not that gemmy quality of rhodochrosite that you can get, and we're starting to introduce you to a different quality level, which is lower and generally, well, pretty universally cheaper, because unless it's a really, really special carving, it's hard to fetch as much for this type of material as you could fetch for that type of material. And this is sort of in between. This is a nice little lizard that's incredible, and a frog here that is a really, really wonderful carving job and a very good high quality gel rhodochrosite. But you see that the base stone here, this type of matrix here, is kind of brownish, kind of creamy, coffee, and it works because you've got the amphibian sitting on top of some other material. This is a Nika Native American, or no, I'm sorry, it's the Zuni. The Zuni bears are known for taking this shape. You've got the two front legs grouped and the two back legs grouped, and then it curves up and comes over. And this piece has a very interesting fault line of other material inside of it. looks like a calcite. I don't know if it is, but it's quite beautiful because it goes right from the mouth to the back of the animal. And you're seeing here again a different type of quality. This is still Argentina, even though it's a different quality, but this is material that comes from Peru. All right, so here's another example. It's much lighter. It doesn't get that super red and gemmy color that you find in Argentina, and it also comes in more cheaply by about half or less than the Argentine material in terms of cost and value. Unless you happen to get this type of gemmy, gemmy, gemmy. This is like almost more gemmy than any of the gel material from Argentina, which is a little bit translucent, but not quite as translucent as this. What we have here is an astounding Peruvian rhodochrosite heart, which is the biggest one I've ever seen, the best one, and pretty much the only one I've ever purchased. But I did pass that along to someone who wanted it even more than me. And although I miss it, I'm optimistic that I might come across another one at some point in the future. So moving right along, we're back to Argentina. We're back to the standard super red gemmy material. And I just wanted to show you this because, again, what I've done is converted it into a pendant. A nice palm piece, which is great to have, can actually become something that you can wear every day if you make it into a pendant. And fortunately, my expert custom wire wrapper, who I hope never goes away because he really has the skills, and if you all ever wanted something special wrapped by him, we could make some sort of arrangement to cause that to happen, because it's really great when you have serious power stones like this to sort of immortalize them, let them still breathe, but enable you to wear them on a daily basis. Here's another example. This is something that you sometimes find when you're looking for rhodochrosite and you find small little pieces. If you're lucky, you can find these for $5. Lately, they can go up to $50. They're really nice quality. Obviously, a piece like this is a much lower quality than what you have here, which I, surprise, surprise, converted into a pendant. So it's gorgeous. It wraps well. It looks good in silver. And this is another quality level, a little bit down from this one here, but not quite as down as that, or this, or even this material and that material there. So what we have is some very interesting stuff going on with these stones, because you're really getting a lot of that bubbliness, that botryoidal cross-section going on. And it's actually very, very gorgeous material that only because it's not like totally 100% consistent gel does it not fetch the highest of dollars, but it makes for a very nice pendant as well. Case in point, this is one that I had done a little while ago, but you can see from the front to the back, there's definitely a difference. You might like it this way, or you might like it that way. I tend to keep it this way with the richer red colors on the front. And then you see something, this is the type of material that gets set in India, and it's gorgeous, 100% gorgeous gel, great pattern, little bit of whiteness, and you can see it's set in quite a solid sterling casing that's marked as being sterling, and you can see the rhodochrosite coming out the back. Moving right along, I did want to show you another fantastic piece. This work is done somewhere else in Asia, not India. I would guess Indonesia, where they put a phenomenal amethyst on top and a very great big opening here where you can put a rope or satin, or whatever type of material you want to hang it off of. And you have this framing around a cabochon of gorgeous rhodochrosite. So it's pretty awesome stuff. It shows up in many ways. Here's a ring, gorgeous 100% red gel ring, heart of wonder, really. It's nice to get such a perfect piece. Of course, you're not going to see a piece, you know, super big of that. It's easier to find smaller bits that you can then put into a ring. So we got a real winner there with that. So rhodochrosite obviously lends itself very well to jewelry. Here's a case where someone creatively added lapis in between the rhodochrosite beads, making a very, very gorgeous bracelet. I had 3 of these and sold right through them because people couldn't resist their awesomeness. This is a piece that shows you what it looks like rough. You can see lots of gradations of color. This, of course, is the gemmiest band. But then you've got surfacing here, which is matrixy. And I am debating maybe polishing this off, sending it to someone that I know to see if they can clear off that top layer so that we can get a good look at the awesomeness that is lurking just underneath that surface. And then this piece is the last one of our slideshow for this webinar, and I'm showing it to you because it is one of a rare grouping of stones of different varieties that naturally forms into the shape of a foot or an ear. And it's interesting that you use your feet to explore what's in front of you in the dark, and you use your ears to listen closely to sound and to decipher the expressions and the feelings of others as they speak to you. So I thought this was a very cool piece because of that, because of its being shaped like an ear. So now I'm going to stop the screen sharing and come back to me. Hello, hello. So that piece that I showed you a second ago, this is it right here. And of course, we're back to the awful light reproduction that you get. That's a little bit better. Yeah, if I move away from the light, if I pull back a little bit, you get more of the natural coloring. So I'm wondering if anybody has any questions that you'd like to post. And one of the cool things about this technology is that even if you are not able to catch the live event, once you sign up, you get a notification of the replay so that when you're not busy, you can just click on it and have a look. And you can also even ask questions then. But in general, you should have or jot down my email. It's kyle@crystalconcentrics.com. I have a great website, lots of free information, a bunch of blogs about interesting topics. And here's that first piece that I started with, just to show you that it's worth getting a look at it in person. Obviously, this video is not doing it justice, but if you do get or have an opportunity to see some real, live, awesome, big pieces of rhodochrosite, you should definitely take that opportunity. What is the best place to look for gemmy rhodochrosite? You know, I obviously have some of it. If you'd like, I can show you some pieces. I have a few flats of rhodochrosite that I've collected over the years. You can also go on eBay and have a look. There's a lot of it being sold out there by you know, different types of people. When you buy online, you have to be aware that sometimes the photographs are misleading, that the colors may be more vivid on the screen than they are in real life. And it can be very disappointing to spend $500 or $1,000 and then you get this piece that really doesn't meet with your expectations. Sugilite is even more difficult to get a proper photographic reproduction of than rhodochrosite, but it's definitely worth seeing different pictures and also making sure you see what's going on the back. Do you like it? Are you okay with it? Is there too much matrix for your liking? Those are the types of questions you want to ask. And also, is this a price that you can live with? $5, $10, $12, $76 a gram. Those are the types of numbers that you may come across if you're looking to get really good quality pieces. Carol likes the skull and the bear. Yes. I have that small bear, and I also have a bigger bear of the same material from Peru. So that seems to answer those questions. Anybody else with any questions for now? Because it looks like we've, done our 45 minutes or so exposition. We made it through over 50 slides. We talked about the energy of rhodochrosite. We talked about the formation, the botryoidal, the Argentina, the Peru. We talked about the cubic formations out of China and Colorado. We talked about the stalactite, which apparently even comes from California. We talked about the ridge formation. We talked about the termination, which is the rarest variety and the most expensive you can find. But energetically, I like being able to hold it. I like it to have more red than less red, because I think energetically it sort of hums and vibrates more than if it's a softer pink color. But if it's a softer pink color, it also has a softer pink energy, which there's nothing wrong with that either. So thanks, Rebecca, for the thanks. Thanks, everybody. Kim, Denise, and Joy. This is very cool. And I know that you've learned a ton, because I learned a ton just by creating this slideshow for you. So stay tuned. I've got something great planned for next month. And I've got so many wonderful events in person also. So if you can make it to Boston, or if you want me to come out to where you are, be in touch. Kyle at crystalconcentrics.com. We'll talk to you later on. Thanks to all of you, and goodbye.